Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Delani Woods, touchdown! ISB.
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it off, got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn Emmy winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back for another edition here on this Wednesday. We made it. It is now September 20. Deep into the month. Fall feels like it is rolling around. Thanks a lot for joining us and being a part of the program today. Don't forget Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore. Andy Moore Honda down in Bloomington, #1 Honda dealer. Just go get more to your door by going to andymoorehonda.com. And, of course, the family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington and Bedford areas. Great places like the Rusty Gator down in Bedford with an exquisite Cajun cuisine unique to the area. I don't know another place around that has that. That's the thing. They've got so many unique places. Shop's got seafood flown in overnighted every day. So very, very cool. Lots to get to. Appreciate everybody jumping on early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. The Indiana basketball schedule. Well, everybody's, I assume, Purdue schedule is out as well. I haven't looked at that one yet. But Indiana's has been released. Their football is having a blackout on Saturday versus Akron. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the upcoming game. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will join us. Cal Neddenriep will get caught up on Indiana high school football. And the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich, as I saw his latest piece out, he has 3 games in. Dr. Bo is, if you follow him, knows when he gets into his prediction mode on football teams in the area. And we'll get him to weigh in on Purdue's as well. Boy, Purdue's has changed for me. I thought that they would hit the ground running a little bit better than they've been able to do up there. Coach Walters and with Graham Harrell at OC, but it shows you how tough it is when you have a new coaching staff, man. It's not easy. That says last year, did Brett Bielema maybe should have gotten Coach of the Year in the West if he didn't last year, because he did a hell of a job. But they've kind of, ironically, taken a step back this year in a year that the Big Ten West is weak. And I mean weak, man. So that's a little odd. But yeah, lots to get to. Lots of basketball to talk about as the recruiting battles continue. Mike Woodson's out on the road. The entire staff with him down at Overtime Elite yesterday in the Atlanta area, watching several guys there, several top players. Of course, Atlanta is also where the Hoops Giving event's coming up, and several other top games. I mean, that's part. As a matter of fact, that's going to be a stretch in the most difficult stretch of Indiana basketball for next season coming up, without question. Fred, Mr. Minton, appreciate you. What time or he's talking about us. Ha! Yeah, we're good. Pete, how are you, sir? He's unloading and unpacking. Man, you're slow, brother. I thought you've been there for a week or so. Well, don't wait for us to send help. Go ahead and get started, and we'll be there as soon as we can get there, right, John? I'll send John up to help you unpack.
What a smart move on your part. What a smart move.
Tell him don't hold his breath, right?
That's right.
John W., appreciate you. Rudy. Caleb. 923. We'll have to ask that. Mike. Fred. Tannis says Indiana missed the chance for a black IU helmet with the matte black IU decals. I am in agreement of that. That's the first thing I said. They're doing the call them the ghost uniforms. Why they call it that, I don't know. It
would make more sense if you were doing that, the weekend of Halloween or something.
Well, there's a couple things. Gritty, who follows the show, put out a post yesterday. A big picture says, I don't have any black IU gear. A closet full of about half my wardrobe that I own look like, but hers was just an IU stuff. It says, I don't have any black IU gear, which there's not a lot of it, to be honest with you. But one of the things that quickly came to my mind yesterday is IU probably would have been a little smarter had they promoted this a couple of weeks in advance. Have some special things made up, sell, put out there, new merch. But
as we know, the administration, they do their own thing when it comes to, and you don't have to say it. I'll say it. They do their own thing when it comes to deciding when and how much they are going to promote the football program. And at least so far this season, it has been the bare minimum. And, it is what it is. I don't think that that's how it should be, but that's what they've decided to do.
I'll let them smack your hand, not mine.
That's right. I mean, go ahead. Come on down here to where I'm at. Come find me. Let me know.
But it's also, it's not about them. It was not about them selling merch. And I get that, because that would give the impression that they're trying to gig the fans a little bit too. So I want to make sure that people see it from every side, all sides. I was just thinking, just for if you truly want a blackout, I promise you, most of those fans probably do not own black IU gear because there is very, very little of it. You have to seek it out. I used to have a solid black IU hat, which I liked because I working in the media, I don't wear team gear. I only have like 2 articles left, but I hope I still have that hat because I liked it. It was just black on black. But anyway, getting back to the comment, I would have liked to have seen the black helmets. Just go all black, baby. I would have loved to have seen that. But as someone said, black is Purdue's color. Oh, horse crap. Black is everybody. Who doesn't use black? Kentucky uses black. When you do when you add black, is like adding white to your current color combo, or whatever. So yeah, I'm not that. I don't mean into that stuff. It's for special occasions, man. It's not like they're changing, adding black to their color scheme. So, but I think it'll be a cool thing. Partially, it's also because they don't get the opportunity to plan as much as you would like to think because they're Indiana. If they were a bigger program that knows they're going to be on national TV play a game at night, they could do that. But that just dawned on me as well. TV dictates so much of when these games are played. Of course, it doesn't have to be at night, but it just makes a bigger.
And that's a fair comment. That makes a lot of sense.
And let me tell you, you don't want to be wearing black on the west side of the IU or on the east side of the IU stadium facing west during the day.
You're absolutely right.
Not in September, because there would have been nobody at the Ohio State game. They would have just packed it in long before they even got there. So there's a lot of things to understand and keep out there. So make sure you consider all of that. The IU basketball schedule out, man, there is a stretch an early stretch too, from November 19th starting on November 19th. They will play UConn, followed by most likely Texas, then Harvard. Then they'll play Maryland, Michigan, Auburn, and Kansas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's a 6-game stretch. One of those games is nothing's really a breather when it's early on, because I promise you, Harvard's going to play Indiana tough as they can play them. Not that Indiana shouldn't win the game. Doesn't matter. You still have to go at it, and it's just one game that's mixed in between the reigning national champion Texas, Maryland, who's on the come, Auburn, who we know is a top-ranked team, and Kansas, who will most likely be the number 1 ranked team. So there you go. How about that? How about that schedule?
I'd say it's definitely the toughest opening 2-game stretch that Indiana has ever gotten in the Big Ten play as well. I feel like they usually get a couple of, I don't want to say easier wins, but I mean, when you're playing Maryland and Michigan to start off in December, that's not when you're sandwiching that right in the middle with Auburn, Kansas, and those other teams. That's definitely a tough start to your conference slate right there.
Yeah, it gets easier. The good thing is when you have a hard stretch like that, part of that is there's only 2 of those games that are conference games, which so that they're not going to take a big conference hit because early on, obviously, the biggest thing for the Indiana basketball team is getting a bunch of new faces integrated into Mike Woodson's offense and defense, and then all brought together. And so you've got to do that quickly. You're going to be doing that against the reigning national champion. Well, they're kind of in good shape. Most of these teams are probably Auburn, Kansas. They bring a lot more guys back. But that's going to be a tough stretch for Indiana. But win or lose, it should hopefully toughen them up for the games to come, for the conference play. But we'll talk a lot more about that throughout the program. Rick Bozich joins us later on, as well as Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. So we'll talk about that a lot more with him. Who was it that just mentioned the Reds? Yeah, the Reds, man. Andrew, Doc went to see him play last night. Well, that was a wasted trip. Gee whiz. Played the Twins, I believe. Man, they got smoked. What was it, 4-0? I think I saw was the last score that I saw. Let's see, where are we now in the standings? And the Diamondbacks have won 80 games. Cincinnati is a game back of the Cubs, but they have played 2 more games than they have, it looks like. Same wins, both with 79 wins. The Reds with 74 losses versus 72 for the Cubs. Albeit there's the game mismatch, so they'll get to make those up or play those games, and they'll have to win them. Then of course Philadelphia, they look like they're going to. They just got to keep doing what they're doing to nab that spot, and then final spot's going to come down to the Cubs, the Reds, and the Diamondbacks. The Giants are kind of fading. I believe the Reds have the tie over the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. I can't remember. I looked at that just the other day. But it doesn't matter if you don't win now. And they have an easier road to get there. They've got games that end. Their last series, I believe, is on the road at St. Louis, which sounds like it would be great because they're last. But Cincinnati just lost. The only series they have lost recently was to St. Louis at home. So who's going to make that final spot, man? We'll find out. Lots more coming up. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joins us next. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Ooh, the Kelly Green comes out against Ohio State.
Oh, yeah?
Against the Buckeyes.
Good morning, Mr. Sinn.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're
great, brother. How are you doing?
Good. I'll see you this afternoon too, right, Jim?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It's funny how I could easily forget something that's coming so quickly.
What's today?
IU Basketball Media Day.
Man, that's
Speaking of which, John Boy, I meant to tell you, can you set up for me to do a live show at starting at like 3?
I can just
or
have
just
it
send
sitting there.
Or just
just
have it sitting there.
Yeah.
And you can't, and there's no way for me to pause it, is there?
If there is, I'm not aware of it. I've never paused.
I can't believe they haven't added that.
Are you wanting to do a
Basically
live stream or
live
just a
show.
recording?
Live stream, because
live stream you can't pause. But if it's a recording, I think you might be able to pause. But if you're wanting to go live, it doesn't matter. You have to just roll with it, you know?
I think that I should just do a live stream. I wonder if I do both.
That's up to you. I mean, I'll set you up for one, and then you can figure out.
I'm asking you if I can do both.
Not at the same time.
Well, on different, you probably can on different laptops. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that after the show. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I cannot complain. Although I have plenty to complain about.
Do you?
No. Well, my knee's killing me, man. I mean, it is becoming a deal. Man. Oh, Doc drove over there to see the Reds last night. They can't get out of their own way. Major League Baseball hands them this end of season schedule. And it's like, not the Twins are not the easiest. Where are they? It's Minnesota.
Did you see the dinger that Kyle Schwarber hit that went completely out of the ballpark?
No. Jeez, they're Minnesota's leading the Central Division right now, so it's not like they're playing nobody.
All right, here we go, guys.
But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Made it. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joins me now. How's everybody doing? How's Dylan?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Brother, it's always a pleasure. The schedule came out yesterday. Did Purdue release their schedule?
Yeah, the Big Ten released all of them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know if Purdue had released all of theirs yet. I hadn't seen it. What stood out about Purdue's schedule? Last year, Purdue fans may not want to acknowledge it, but they had the easiest schedule in the conference last year, and that's just a statistical fact. But what is it like this year? What are the things that stand out about Purdue's schedule?
I mean, they do have only one game against Michigan State, just like Indiana does. They play Michigan State toward the end of the season in a game that might be like a Big Ten championship, right? Like that's going to be, and it's at Mackey, which is going to be a lot of fun. So that's the big one. And like Indiana,
Michigan State got screwed, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Because they have to finish. They do that, and then they finish at Assembly Hall.
Yeah, exactly. So they play Purdue and Indiana within like a week or a little bit more of one another. So it's right at the end. Purdue has, let's see here, I'm looking at it. They have a closing stretch of Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and Wisconsin, which is going to be kind of obviously make or break, I would think. Those are the last 4 games.
Yeah, Purdue will. I'm not sure if they will be the favorite going in. It's 1A and 1B, I know, between them and Michigan State.
I think it's them and Michigan State are co-favorites. That's the way I would handicap it.
Yeah, because I don't know that you could put one in front of the other. I just don't. There's too much talent. I know everybody likes to think about Mount Edie, but there's just too much talent on the Michigan State sideline to pretend it doesn't.
Well, the thing with Michigan State is that it's going to take a little bit for it to gel, right? I think we're going to see some knee-jerk reaction at the beginning, where Michigan State's going to start 4-3 in the non-con, and it's going to be like, oh, what's wrong with Michigan State? Just like it is every single year, where they start 4-3 and they drop out of the top 25, and it's like, oh, what's wrong with Michigan State? And then they end up going 14-6 in the conference, and that's probably what's going to happen again this year. Now, the question is whether it takes them until maybe the middle of January to completely come together. And by then Purdue has like a 3-game lead in the Big Ten or something like that, right? And they end up being about the same by the end of the season, but Purdue has the more experienced team to start. And so they have an advantage in that way. So that's a possibility to me.
It's going to be interesting. And Indiana's schedule, of course, out as well. And they have a very interesting stretch. Theirs is going to come early and it's going to come fast. Yep. And I talked about it before you joined us. It begins November 19th. That is probably a lot earlier than Mike Woodson would like to see this young team of his, which people may say they're not that young. Well, I think that they're young because I think of Mackenzie Mbako. I think of Khalil Ware. Malik Renew is just a sophomore. So a lot of their and new faces, but the reigning national champion, that's going to be a punch in the mouth in New York. And then the next day, most likely, I'm expecting Indiana to be playing against Texas. Then they'll get a game 6 days later with Harvard, which in Cambridge, and then you come back and you take on Maryland at home. You've got to travel to Ann Arbor. Then you go down to Atlanta to take on Auburn, and you come back home and play most likely the number 1 ranked team in the Kansas Jayhawks. So pretty rough stretch there for Indiana early on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you go like 3-3 in that stretch, you're feeling pretty good about the way Indiana's season is going to go. There are some games there where if you just win a couple of them, you're feeling pretty good. The thing with the early Big Ten schedule with Maryland and Michigan is that usually the way the schedule has shaken out for Indiana in recent years is they almost always like those early games are almost always against like the bottom feeders in the conference. Nebraska and Northwestern. Indiana has played those teams at the beginning of the season a lot in recent years, so they usually have a chance to either start 2-0 or during the Archie Miller era, take some really bad losses and kind of give you an idea of where the slate is going to go the rest of the year. This year you get Maryland and Michigan. I feel like that is a much more difficult December conference pairing than Indiana has had in quite a while. Someone can feel free to correct me on that. But I mean, they played Iowa last year, so that was part of it. And on the road, that was tough. But Maryland and Michigan, neither of those games is sure, especially with Maryland being at home and Michigan being on the road. I think that's a really good test for Indiana to start the season. You feel like if you split those, you're doing well. And then again, if you split Auburn and Kansas, you're doing well. And you split the games in the Empire Classic, you're doing well. So yeah, like I would say 4-3 in that 7-game stretch, you're feeling pretty good about yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking at Michigan State's schedule, and they have what I would call unusually easier start than normal. I see 2 games on the on the early docket. One with Duke on November 14th after playing James Madison in Southern Indiana. Butler, they're kind of not where they need to be, but and Arizona on the 23rd. Yeah. Other than that, they played Georgia Southern, and then they've got Wisconsin, Nebraska, Baylor, which I'm not sure where Baylor is right now. They've kind of fallen off a little bit. Indiana State, Stony Brook. Yeah, that's a relatively manageable schedule.
It is. Maybe Tom Izzo realized there were guys on his team that have not played college basketball and on scheduling 7 ranked teams right at the start of the season, which has worked for them before, right? It's not like that's not a sound method that he's put together, but yeah, it's relatively easier than usual. And so if Michigan State runs through that schedule with maybe 1 loss, you're looking at a team that's probably going to be ranked in the top 5 when you get into Big Ten play.
I think he probably figured out, you know what, I can still get these guys to learn and go through this without just getting punched in the mouth every day every day of November.
Yeah, exactly. And boy, that team is going to be so good this year. It really, really is. And I know that Purdue fans are some of them they're not happy that they're kind of being lumped in as the co-favorites after bringing back everyone from a team that won the conference by 3 games. Well, and I get that.
But you know what? That's what happens when you lose in the NCAA tournament to an average 14 seed 3 straight years.
Sure. Yeah, but the Big Ten, what we've learned about is Purdue is built to win the Big Ten, right? Like that's the way their team is built. They're built to win the way the Big Ten is played right now. And that's not particularly conducive to NCAA tournament success. That is why that's why the Big Ten hasn't won an NCAA title in 21 years or 24 years now, is because since 2000, Michigan State, do the math, is because the conference's style of play is not particularly conducive to what you want in the NCAA tournament. The officiating is totally different. And there's just not the high-end wing talent in the Big Ten that there is in the rest of the country. So Purdue is built to win the Big Ten in a way that it's not built to win NCAA tournament games. Now, I am of the opinion that is going to be slightly different this year. Purdue has significantly more athleticism than it did last year. That is something that they have gone out in the offseason and fixed, in my opinion. So maybe it takes Purdue a little bit longer to gel because they're going to be playing a new style, not an entirely new style. They're still going to be Purdue. They're still going to get the ball into Zach Edey on a ton of possessions, but they're going to be playing a little bit of a different style this year. So now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it will take Purdue a little bit longer to gel this year, even though they have all these guys back, because yes, they're going to try to do things a little bit different in an effort to make sure that what happened in the NCAA tournament doesn't happen again. So I really do think it's going to be a fascinating conference race.
Yeah, I really don't get. And I know we all hear it. I've said it, but I'm going to stop saying it. The Big Ten style of play and all this, I'm like, okay, then why do they play that way? Why do you not change?
Because it gets
officiating is then change your style of officiating. Change
because Kevin Warren was trying. Kevin Warren was trying to. That was his push at the end of his tenure, was to change how that was done. He said as much at Big Ten Media Days a couple of years ago. But the reason they do that is because they feel like if you play that way, there's going to be a lot of Big Ten teams that make the NCAA tournament. And that is a good thing, is to have a lot of bites of the apple, have a lot of teams in the tournament. But the problem is that when you get all those teams in the tournament, they've beaten each other up for 3 months. And then you end up having 8 of the 9 teams that you get in lose by the end of the first weekend, right? So it hasn't worked. They tried it. They want a lot of bites at the apple, and that hasn't been conducive to winning in the tournament outside of Michigan State, essentially, because Michigan State plays a little bit differently.
Mike Woodson, of course, his style of recruiting is definitely not.
It's not. No,
it's not your dad's Big Ten. It's not Bob Knight's Big Ten. It's not Gene Katie's Big Ten. It's not even Tom Izzo's old Big Ten.
No. Mike Woodson is essentially trying to drag Indiana into a different style of play by himself. Like, he is essentially trying to say, I'm going to recruit in such a way that I'm going to, and I doubt this is something that he's thinking about, but and maybe it is just because it's something that's going to help Indiana because no one else plays the style Indiana does, but in the Big Ten at least. But basically, he is saying we are going to have enough talent on the wing that it's going to force the rest of the conference to try to figure it out along with us, and that's going to help the entire league. And that's kind of the knock-on effect of Mike Woodson kind of going big in some of these recruiting circles. Now, he has to win some of those battles, right? And he has with Mackenzie Mbako and some other guys, but that's where Mike Woodson has pointed Indiana. And I think like it would be good for Indiana if that happened, obviously, but it would also be good for the rest of the Big Ten.
Absolutely. It would be great for Indiana, of course. He has put such an emphasis on the wing position, as you mentioned. That's the position that killed them last year. That was the difference between that team being able to get to the second weekend and potentially beyond and not. They did not have the talent. They had no reason for teams not to collapse. There was no reason to. Now, when you bring in Mackenzie Mbako and you've got Khalil Ware and Malik Renew and Xavier Johnson, man, that presents a hell of a lot of headaches for people. I'm assuming Mackenzie Mbako is going to be successful. I haven't seen him play in college, but and then now we see that, of course, right now, Liam McNeely, another big time wing waiting in the wings. No pun intended. Absolutely, it was intended. But he's another big time get in that position, assuming Mbako may not be here. But if he is, boy, can you imagine having bookends like that? And then the rest of the talent that he has, that he's bringing in, that has come in. So, can Indiana, you talked about getting the talent to gel. Michigan State's probably not nearly in the position that Indiana is, with having 6 new faces that are all going to be expected to be a contributing piece to this team.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State at least has the advantage of having their lead guard back. Tyson Walker is back. He's kind of the guy that makes everything go, kind of like Xavier Johnson for Indiana. Although he's not coming off an injury, he played significant minutes and almost willed them to the Final Four last year. But they have him back, and he runs the show a little bit, so that helps as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned this. Mr. Benton asked, so if Purdue beats everyone in the Big with their style, does that mean just one team can change their style and dominate every year? No, it's because there's so many different ones. You have to be adaptable. Number one, you have to make people adapt to you. That's the thing. You have to make people have to beat you. In my opinion, you have to make, no matter who it is, whether it's Purdue or Michigan State, Purdue, Indiana, they're all chasing each other. You have to defend their pieces. And if your offensive pieces are harder to guard, that's probably the style that's going to win. I don't really care what style it is, even in the NCAA tournament. But you in the tournament, you just run into so many different styles of play, whether it's smaller and faster, bigger and slower, and it's a lot of times it's about matchups. But for teams to just simply be successful in the Big Ten and outside of the Big Ten, they're going to have to adjust, like you said. But that's not saying that Purdue cannot have success in the NCAA tournament. They just haven't, but they never have. And if they don't have success, though, with this team this year, there has to be some serious questions asked in West Lafayette. Okay, what are we doing here? Yeah, seriously.
Right, because I think that, I mean, Matt Painter has talked about this offseason, is that they have restructured things significantly the way they're going to play. Again, like I said, the way they're going to play in order to change. And he hasn't said explicitly, we're tired of losing the tournaments and we're going to change the way we do things, because they're not, right? They're going to get the ball into Zach Edey. They're going to shoot a lot of 3-pointers. They feel like a lot of the problem at the end of last season whether they just didn't make open threes. And part of that was because they had a fair amount of freshmen playing minutes, and those guys got tired at the end of the year. Fletcher Lawyer was a very good player and a good 3-point shooter up until about the middle of January. And then he just hit a wall and he never was good again, right? He quite frankly, he struggled toward the end of the year. And part of it was because he was dealing with some injuries and he wasn't 100%, but he was also a freshman playing his first college season. And he hit the freshman wall. Right? Braden Smith, kind of the same way. These guys are good players who didn't play well at the end of the season because they got tired, right? And so that's part of it. That part of the offseason has been emphasis on that. Another part has been they're going to try to let Trey Kaufman-Renn off the leash, it seems like. Matt Painter has said explicitly that he made a mistake last season by not putting Trey Kaufman-Renn at the 4 and letting him go be a wing scorer. He said he limited him by making him the backup 5 and putting him in the post. They want him to be essentially a wing scorer this year, and they're going to give him the ball off the dribble and let him go to work. And they think that he can be a 12 to 15 point per game guy doing that and clear space for Zach Edey in that way. And so I'm really fascinated to see how that turns out.
Pressure on Matt Painter this year. Gotta be. I mean, Purdue doesn't get the pressure that, say, Indiana does. They don't have the media following that, say, Indiana does. And I'm not saying this is a tit for tat thing. There's just less pressure in West Lafayette. But surely, even in West Lafayette, there has to be some pressure to win with this talent coming back. They can't be set up any better. Yeah.
I mean, look, I will say that assuming they get a high NCAA tournament seed, a top 3 seed, which they should, they have the talent to do it. If they do get a top 3 seed, that first round game is probably going to have the best ratings of any top 3 seed in a first round game in a while in the NCAA tournament. I'll tell you that. People are going to be watching to see if, it happens again to Purdue. And they are going to have a lot more pressure on them in that first round game than a lot of teams have had. Than your typical 2 seed and a 15 seed, right? They are going to have more pressure on them in that game. Now, obviously, they have to go through the season and play well to get a high seed first. And that is not a guarantee. It should be. It's about as guaranteed as it can be for a team in college basketball, but it's not a guarantee. You still have to go out and win the games, right? And the Big Ten is different this year. They're probably not going to be able to roll through it like they did last year, just because of regression to the mean and all that. But it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, especially it's September and we're already talking about the third weekend in March and how Purdue is going to handle the pressure of you lost to a 16 seed and a 15 seed and a 13 seed all in the last 4 years. How do you go out and handle that? So I'm curious to see that.
Absolutely. I know what's up next for you. You'll be in Bloomington today, as will I, for Indiana Basketball Media Day. We will have a live show for you, or that should start at 3 p.m. Or thereabouts. That's Eastern time, I guess. So we'll try to bring that to you live. If not, we'll definitely get it to you one way or the other. But looking forward to seeing you, man.
Thank you very much, Jim. Looking forward to seeing you all. See you in Bloomington this afternoon.
Safe trips. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Hey, stay tuned for Brett Rump up next in Fort Wayne after Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I wish I hadn't said that about 3 p.m. because we're on in Fort Wayne at 4 or 3 or 4. I don't even know, but I wish I hadn't said that.
If I think about it after the show, I'll cut it out.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I have to get going so I can drive to Bloomington, and I will see you guys there.
All right, buddy. Safe travels.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Are you kidding me? I think I cracked my screen. damned. Yeah, I hate it. As soon as that came out, I'm like, shut up. Oh, what I was going to say is, can you also make a thing for it to send out?
What do you mean?
Banner. What do you call when you send our?
I'll just send us. I'll make a scheduled post. It'll do its thing.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, one of those that has like a picture on it.
That says what?
IU Basketball Media Day, a picture of like Xavier Johnson, Trey Galloway, Mike Woodson.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Vern. So we open until 9:30, right?
Yeah.
And 9:30 is Kyle. So nice little short seggy here.
All right, here we go. Maybe nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate, but in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering, serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group. This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by WOW Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, September 20. Hope you're having a good one. Hope everyone is enjoying the week. Today is Indiana Basketball Media Day. We will be out there, and you can join us live on YouTube. Just go to @Indiana Sports Beat Radio on YouTube, and you can find it. We will have lots of interviews with the players. And have that set up for you. So I'm going to make sure you get set up. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and hit the notifications toggle so you know when that's coming, so you don't miss it. But we'll have all that set up today. Looking forward to it. The AAC has said that they're not going to look westward for their anything in their growth. The North Carolina has brought on TJ Beisner from Kentucky to oversee their NIL efforts. So everybody keeps poaching everybody. Have you noticed that? It's just Duke and Kentucky and now North Carolina. But for the second time in 16 months, it's happened. Another blue blood has swooped in to steal one of John Calipari's top young staffers from Kentucky. Last spring, Duke poached assistant Jai Lucas. Now it's North Carolina, prying away UK Director of Player Development, TJ Beisner, to oversee the Tar Heels' NIL efforts. So there you go. That's how they see that they're losing to Kansas. Kansas has become the top dog. Surprised they're not getting whoever the hell is running Kansas's deal, because they're rolling. See if that has any much of an effect on Kentucky. I'm sure that they'll pick right up and roll along. In a number of ways, losing that kind of NIL expertise is a major blow on its own, but Calipari is also losing another young person in his inner circle whom he actually listened to. First, he lost Deputy AD Dwayne Peavy, his true right-hand man, to the AD job at DePaul. Then he pushed out longtime assistant John Robick. Media relations director and confidant Eric Lindsay left college athletics altogether last January. And Lucas, one of his top assistants in the country, bolted for Duke. And then now this. So is the Calipari world cracking a little bit? That's a lot of loss. So, but he did bring in a couple of his trusted friends this summer, veteran NBA assistant John Welch and former Memphis staffer Chuck Martin to fill out his staff. I wonder if he was on that staff that got NCAA sanctions. But according to this piece, it says there's no doubt that Kentucky's downturn, one NCAA tournament win since 2019, is showing. So there's that. So they've got less wins since 2019 than Indiana. Wow. Indiana has what, 2? Does that count the Wyoming? Does Wyoming count?
I mean, it counts, but I mean, it's not. I mean, you didn't really win in the round of 64, but I mean, you still won in what is now considered the NCAA tournament, even though it's the first 4 you're technically playing yourself in.
Yeah, which I think is stupid. I mean, why is it not just obviously you if you don't win, not only do you not get in, but if you were in and you don't win, you don't go farther. So it's why I don't. That's a marketing gimmick, which is a joke. It's like, duh. You mean if they don't win, they don't get to play again? Well, no kidding. It's kind of how it works, man. It's a one-day tournament, every day and all day. But yes, Kentucky taking it on the chin. And, you know, when you see, look at Alabama right now, football. It's not fair. Nick Saban's won 6 freaking national championships there. And you see the slight showing of imperfection and people just, oh boy, it's over for Alabama. Well, maybe winning national championships is for a while, but winning national championships ain't the easiest thing to do to begin with. And to have won 6 in that period is mind-boggling. But there's no doubt to me, well, in my opinion, that the downturn at Alabama is a direct result of the transfer portal. They don't have the depth of talent that they are always so used to having, because guys would get there and they're kind of stuck. A transfer, I've got to sit out. I don't want to sit out. I'll stay here, hope to play. Now, I'm at the portal. I'm going to play next year. I'm going to be starting at Colorado. I'm going to be starting at Indiana. I'm going to be starting at Michigan State, wherever. And I said this the other day. I think that the parity now is, man, it's starting to be. This is what we wanted in college football. We were all sick and tired of seeing Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and whomever you want to throw up in there every year. Sick and tired of it. Well, boom. This is the best thing that the NCAA has done in a long time. Now, they went in kicking and screaming. I'll give you that. But I just love what it's done. I'm telling you, even Indiana can be successful in football with the transfer portal. There's no question. I think Indiana has the talent right now to be successful. And by successful, I mean becoming bowl eligible, having the talent to win enough games to be bowl eligible and more. Obviously, Indiana had the talent to beat Louisville. They just didn't do it. Different reasons. It wasn't about talent. They didn't lose that game because of talent. I think that they could have given Ohio State a hell of a better game had the decision on starting quarterback been made before the season, and the guy was taking the reps. But that's that. But Indiana generally doesn't win those games, and they're probably not. But let's say they lose that game. But now that they would still be 2-1 going into this Akron game, which would make them 3-1. And that will make a huge difference, because as soon as after this week, they have to hit the road. And every road game is going to be tough.
Yep. And they'll start with Maryland, and then you go to Michigan right after that. Pretty tough
Maryland's
stretch.
Kind of a slow starting team, but boy, you've got to stay on point with them at all times, because Tagovailoa can just get that offense going. They can put 21 points up pretty quick. It's going to be it. You know, I said leading up to the Louisville game, that was a litmus test. Well, okay. It told me that Indiana has the talent. They lost that game for other reasons, but so now you go forward. They have the talent to beat Maryland without question. They have the talent to beat plenty of teams on this schedule. Michigan's not one of them. Penn State's not one of them. But I believe that is the only, or those are the only two teams remaining on Indiana's football schedule that they don't have the talent to beat. But also, I will grant you that Big Ten road games, just tough, period. Doesn't matter who you're playing or where you're playing. I don't care if it's Northwestern. I don't care if it's Rutgers. I don't care if it's Maryland, Purdue, Illinois. And Indiana has to go to Maryland, and then they have to go to the Big House. Then they'll get Rutgers at home. That's going to be a gigantic game for Indiana. I'll be honest with you. I expect them after this weekend to be 2-2. After Maryland, I expect them to be 2-3. Michigan 2-4. So if they come into the Rutgers game at 2-4 with half of their schedule gone, Rutgers becomes a must-win game.
It really does.
Then you go, so that would, what would that put you at 3-4?
Put you at 3-4 at that point.
Okay. Then they've got to go to Penn State. So now you're 3-5. No. You have Penn State at home.
Either way, you're probably not going to
win. Still 3-5.
Still 3-5. The last four games after that, Wisconsin, Michigan. I don't know the order. Wisconsin, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois. Those are all winnable.
They have to. They have Wisconsin at home. That's going to be a tough game, but winnable. Yes, I agree. But it's a must-win for Indiana.
Yep. That's why this beginning of the schedule sucks, because if you get yourself in a hole, you're looking at that back half and you're like, yes, it is an easier portion of the schedule, but we have to win these games.
Yeah. Indiana's going to have to upset somebody, in my opinion, for them to have a shot at getting to 6 games. And upsetting somebody would be beating Purdue at Purdue.
Be winning at Maryland in a couple weeks.
It would be winning at Maryland. It would be winning at Illinois. But that also includes winning at home against Wisconsin, winning at home against Michigan State, winning at home against Rutgers. So that's with all that. We've got to take a break. Lots more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio in the second hour. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us. We'll get you caught up on Indiana high school football And Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer, joins us to talk about more hoops, recruiting, and football. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market. Oh, yeah, I'm missing something. Oh, no. Oh, I'm looking for this. Did you see, or you probably didn't, I saw that Kyle posted, he was at Ben Davis at a game. And apparently there were gunshots fired.
No, I did not see that.
Yeah, I remember he posted, and everybody just. And it was a hell of a game. Ben Davis wins 31-28 over Warren Central. Oh, come on. What in the hell?
All right. Kyle should be on here shortly. To build a new home with Property Shore Construction, now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday, September 20, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. What an incredible burst of weather we've been having as well, and what a Saturday it's going to be under the lights at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington for the Hoosiers hosting the Akron Zips as they look to go get to 2-2 on the season. As we talked about, looking forward to Kyle Neddenriep joining us here in a little bit to get you caught up on IHSA high school action. I noticed that he posted a deal last week where there were apparently shots fired at the Ben Davis game he was at. I was looking forward to talking to him about that. But we'll wait for him to get on for that. 6A is just a powerhouse. Center Grove still sitting at the top after a 36-18 win over Harvest Prep of Ohio. Their quarterback, Tyler Cherry, 16-21, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, both to Noah Coy. Caught 9 passes, 134 yards. Kyle joins us now. I was just talking about Center Grove's win over another team from outside of the state because of their forced to do that. But another win for Center Grove. Man, they're looking like a number 1 team, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where you don't know relative to the competition because we're not really familiar with these teams. But yeah, I would say, I would think at this point, we kind of know what they have with their passing game with Tyler Cherry and Noah Coy, and then a really good defense. Kind of the one unusual thing with Center Grove this year is their running game isn't really. They don't have that running back that's kind of the known guy like they've had in the past. So that's been a little bit different with this team. But yeah, I definitely think with the experience at quarterback and the defense they have, and also the 3 consecutive state championships under their belt and the coach that they have. I mean, they're I've been putting the number one still in my poll, my ballot, and everything. So I think they're still. I think it's relatively wide open in 6A, but I still think they're the number 1 team at this point.
And 6A is just gonna. I can't wait till the tournament starts because it's gonna be fun. Ben Davis, you've got number 2 at 4-1. They knocked off Warren Central in a great game, 31-28. You said they missed on a few chances to build on that lead though in the second half and survive a late drive by Warren Central with a missed field goal. But great game there. But were there shots fired at that game?
There were not. There was there was 3 or 4 pop sounds, and I was up in the press on the east side of the stadium, and in the moment, kind of thought there were, I thought they were fireworks, to be honest with you. I put my head down, put my head back up. I was typing or whatever, and then put my head back up, and there's people running from the bleachers, to the field house. The players were running, the coaches. So I picked up my phone, started taking videos. Like, oh man, this is probably newsworthy if this is something worse. And obviously, it seemed like it in the moment. So I did put in real time. You're kind of covering things and covering news events in our job. So took video of that and. Put it out there. Probably 5 minutes later, the teams are back in the locker room, and the announcement comes over that it's the police say there are fireworks. They confirmed, and you could kind of see the police cars to the north side of the north field house. They were back, they were kind of in that neighborhood back there, and you could see the police cars, from where I was standing. I was outside the press box by that point, just right outside of it, talking to another guy. And, so they sent the teams came back on very quickly. They made that announcement, confirmed to be fireworks. And, I tried to relay that information as fast as possible, when that happened. So, you're covering stuff real time. I got a lot of negative feedback. You're like, yeah, you're fear mongering, whatever. I was reporting stuff real time. I never said it was gunshots, never said it was anything other than you hear 4 sounds, pop, 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 pop. And then that's the reaction to it. And, so I didn't get all, it wasn't like I'm just doing my job. I signed up for it and, I take the criticism, but I thought about deleting it, because of the reaction, but I can't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kyle kind of lost his signal there for a second, but we'll get him back. But yeah, I agree. He never said there were shots fired. That's why I was asking. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was saying in the break. I said he never said that. That's why I was asking if there were, because I knew that that was what was posted. But I did see everybody. I'm like, oh man, they didn't wait around. But that's okay. I get them not waiting. It's better to err on the side of caution than not. So. But glad that that's all that was, because that ended up being a hell of a close game. And just but also one of the others in 6A is that the tournament is just going to be boy, is this gearing towards one of the best tournaments that we've seen in a few years with these guys, with all of them being so good?
I mean, I think so. I mean, it's the deeper we get into the season, I mean, and Ben Davis, I thought, didn't play the best game, they can play. I mean, Warren's defense is legit, though. They have two defensive ends, Damian Shanklin and Tyrone Burris, who are they're going to be Division I players. I mean, they're legit ends who are tall and they look the part when they're out there playing. And they gave Ben Davis trouble, but I still think Ben Davis is a team that's got a chance to be really good and potentially, and we haven't seen them play Center Grove, so those teams playing each other, I think down the road could be really interesting. But I think Brownsburg's sitting there number one. I'm going to cover them this weekend against Westfield, and Westfield's 5-0. And they're they just beat HSE, and on the last play of the game Friday, they've won 4 games by, I think it's 11 points total. So they're living right apparently up there at Westfield, winning all these close games, but. HSE, Westfield, Carmel got a good win over Lawrence North. So the north side of that bracket looks stronger. Fishers, who Kobe Martin, just got that IU offer. He's legit running back. So that north side, I think, is getting stronger. And the south is strong as it always seems to be with all these teams. So, yeah, I mean, Ben Davis, Brownsburg playing each other in sectional, I think down the road that will tell us a lot. And then Center Grove, and how good is Cathedral too? I mean, we I don't think they should be written off either, and we'll see them play Center Grove later this season. So yeah, I mean, there's several teams on both sides, I think, and it's a little bit more balanced bracket, I think, than we've seen in the past. With the South has kind of been more dominant on the 6A, or not kind of, it definitely has been. And the North is getting better. We even saw that last year, even the last few years, where Westfield and Fort Wayne Carroll, I think, have been a little bit better representatives on that north side than some we've seen in the past, although Carmel's been obviously really good in the previous years too. So but yeah, I think it's just 6A doesn't have that truly just juggernaut dominant Center Grove type team we saw a couple of years ago. There's not that type of team necessarily, but there's a lot of really good teams, a lot of really good quarterbacks, which I think that kind of gives you, if you got a quarterback, you always got a shot.
I'm trying to pull up who the number one spot's blocked out for me. I'm trying to get it pulled down. That actually in the AP poll, who has the number one spot at the moment?
Brownsburg right now is number one.
Okay, I was just curious. But see, I love how people can see that you have Center Grove number one, and you were a voter in that. And there's nobody that covers more football than you do. Like I said, I think there's too many people that vote that don't see things. But boy, man, whether it's Brownsburg, Center Grove, Ben Davis, Westfield, and then there's Crown Point way up there in the Hammond area, which our friends on WJOB up in the region. They've got a 5-0 team up there. So a team from up north. It's mostly teams in 6A. Are there any? How many teams that are in 6A that are from outside of the Indianapolis metropolitan area?
Total, you mean? Out of there's
it's just in 6A. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot, are there?
No, there's probably, gosh, I'd have to. There's 32 teams total, and probably almost 2/3 of those are probably our area, I would say, or maybe not quite that many, but it definitely dominated by Central Indiana. I'd have to look at that for sure, but the majority, I would say, if not 2/3, it's majority are our area teams.
Yeah, I see Fort Wayne Carroll up there, but
Homestead.
Yeah, it's like you said. But Penn's in there as well. So up north. But then you look at 5A, and the number one team is Fort Wayne Snyder for our friends up there listening on the Fan in Fort Wayne. And you've got Bloomington North, Valparaiso, Plainfield, Bloomington South, Maryville, Mishawaka, Lafayette, Harrison. 5A is all over the place.
5A is all over the place, and it might be the most interesting class just by.
Wait a minute. My Highlanders are number 9. What the hell's going on?
I think they're 4-1, right? So
yeah. What the hell? I missed that.
Better pay attention.
Wow.
Get out to a game Friday night.
I've been too busy, but I've been used to them not being very good in the last couple of years, which has been disappointing. They kept starting the year off playing male high school in Louisville, and I'm like, dude, why do you want to play? That's like playing Warren Central every year to start the season, or something like that. But yeah, good to see. It's great to see the mix of schools. 4A, Evansville Wrights number 3, Kokomo number 2, East Central number 1, Evansville Memorial number 4. So we've got a lot of teams from all over the place. But and how you keep all that straight, I don't know. Basketball recruiting going on right now with a lot of the coaches, Kyle. They're out visiting these guys. We've seen, I know Matt Painter. Trent Sisley has had visits from Indiana assistant coach Brad Walsh, Tom Izzo, assistants Matt Painter, Mike Woodson today, and Micah Shrewsbury tomorrow. So he's a busy guy, but he's not the only one.
Yeah, no, Braylon Mullins too. I know we've talked about him before, but Greenfield Central stand out, and he's got you mentioned Sisley's run down there. Mullins got an IU offer, and Painter was in this week. Notre Dame today is going to be in to watch him. So, he's definitely a name that's picked up some steam. In recent weeks, I would say even, or maybe months. But yeah, he's a guy to I've always liked his game, and his it's his team. It was really good last year. They didn't, but I think maybe didn't get on the radar because they played in a super tough sectional and they didn't get out of it. But he's a long guard who can really shoot it and can take people off the bounce too. I think he's that type of player, really, really good player. So that his name's been picking up some steam. I know Xavier Robinson at Lawrence North, his name has been definitely picking up as well. So yeah, you're seeing some of these guys that locally. You mentioned Sisley for sure. I mean, he's an obvious one that is on a lot of in-state teams' radar, and they're getting out to see him this month. So yeah, it's always that exciting time to see where, maybe not even so much for guys like Mullins and Sisley necessarily, because they're just juniors, but maybe even more the seniors, and some of those guys who haven't committed yet that are still kind of out there, like Robinson's case. So, but it is interesting to see, and maybe those guys end up committing early. Who knows? I mean, it's still relatively early in their recruitment, but yeah, so that's all going on right now.
Yeah, a lot of that going on, as we've seen, whether it's local or national, the recruiting is hitting it up. What's up next for you, sir?
I've got some mid-season stuff coming out probably tomorrow. That kind of mid-season awards, Mr. Football glance, working on stuff today. I have some of it done, but and also if people want to check out, I had a story on a Martinsville kid today, Brandon Kent, who played Friday, had the game of his life, had 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, literally arrived at the stadium Friday afternoon after his service at the funeral home for his sister who passed away at 5 months, 7 days old. She had just a myriad of health issues that she wasn't even supposed to live that long. And so kind of a heartbreaking story that kind of had a sort of a movie script night. I mean, it was just amazing what happened. Had a chance to talk to him. And so that story's out there right now this morning. But just it's weird how this job kind of puts you in places where you don't expect, or talking to kids who have something like that happen to them. And it was great to catch up with him. We just kind of sat out at Martinsville's field Monday and chopped it up, and it was super interesting to talk to him about that. So that's out there this morning too.
Make sure you give Kyle a follow and be a subscriber. I am. Keep local papers alive. Appreciate you, my friend. Look forward to it.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich joins us. We'll talk some football, basketball recruiting, a little mixed bag. Back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Morning, Rick.
Good morning. What's up?
The usual, I guess.
Where were you at Saturday, man?
I think his computer froze. I just realized that he ain't moving.
Okay.
This happened earlier this week. I think he'll reconnect in about 15 seconds or something. We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, I was actually up there too. I was there more as a spectator.
Oh, okay.
What is
I was going to go up and say hello. But I didn't realize Jim let me know he wasn't there. Let me see if I can. I don't know if Jim knows he was disconnected. I'll send him a message. But if he doesn't rejoin on time, I can get us rolling when we come back from break.
All right. I'll take over.
I saw a little bit of the thing you're doing with Eric Crawford on WDRB. That looked interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. We're doing it twice a week.
So it's pretty cool. It's like a streaming service, essentially, correct? Like different shows and stuff? Okay.
Yeah, they're adding more shows every day. We're going to add a betting show soon. They're going to add a news show soon.
I know Dalton Godby, isn't he doing like a kind of a variety show? I can't think of what it's called.
He's going to different places and doing different things. He went somewhere and played baseball. He went to Starlight and rode three-wheelers or four-wheelers, I don't know, off-road vehicles.
Nice.
So, yeah, he's going around the area and just like talking to people about the different communities and stuff.
That's pretty cool.
You know, they're making a big push to have a thing that people have to stream because more and more young people. It's
unique. I mean, you don't see that from local stations, I feel like.
Nope. So they asked us to do it, and we said sure. So Eric's always fun to do anything with. The hard part of it is it's just hard to spread the word.
Yeah, I could see them.
You know, you can't,
especially when people probably they probably had a similar reaction to me, and you'd be like, "Wow, the local station's trying to do streaming, and wonder how that's going to work out."
Yep. So I might give it a plug at the end of the thing.
Yeah, totally acceptable. All right, here we go.
And Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle will be back with us shortly. He is having a slight connection issue, but John here to get us rolling with Rick Bozich. Going to talk a myriad of things, including Indiana football's, it was a lot of things this past weekend in Indianapolis. We'll start there. And it was a tale of two halves. Obviously, one of the most overused cliches in sports, but I think the game that took place in Lucas Oil Stadium was exactly that. Louisville completely ran the table in quarters 1 and 2, and Indiana came back. They countered with an onside kick, recovered it, and immediately stole back momentum, and they pretty much carried it the rest of the way up until the goal line stand. And so it was very interesting to see how Indiana responded, being down 21-0, and to see them have that success. They ultimately came up with the loss, but I think there's definitely some positives you can take away, even though there, are definitely some negatives as well.
Yeah, this might be unfair to say this, but, I walk away from a game like that and say, it's part of the DNA of Indiana. Has so many games like that they could win if they do one or two more plays, and then they lose them. And the problem is they don't have a great margin of error to get to 6 wins to go to a bowl game. And when you lose one like that, then the pressure builds,
Yep.
And Louisville on the flip side, that's been the difference in their program over the last, they win more of those kinds of games than they lose. And really you can look at Louisville's team this season and say they could have lost the Georgia Tech game, but they won. And they could have lost the Indiana game, but they won. And now they're sitting at 3-0 with Boston College coming in this weekend with a really good chance to go 4-0. And their whole fan base is engaged and jacked up and probably looking down the road a little bit to when Notre Dame comes in a couple weeks. And at Indiana, the selling job goes on where you have to, get people to buy in to think that things are going to get better.
Yeah. And then speaking of, the fan buy-in, it was very evident in Lucas Oil, the fan differential. I've seen many people think that it was about a 60-40 split in favor of Louisville for fans, which if you're Indiana, even though that was a neutral site game, you got to be wondering what went wrong with the marketing of this game. Why can't more fans buy into this? And I know that it's a product of what's happened over the past couple of years, but it was interesting to see as Jim Coyle gets ready to rejoin us, the difference between the fan bases in Lucas Oil Stadium this past weekend.
Yeah, I estimated it was about 65% Louisville fans. I was surprised. Neither the attendance wasn't listed on the box score. And on Monday, when I looked in the Louisville and IU site, it's not listed. And I asked somebody at IU on the drive home, and they told me the crowd was 22,000 something. I thought it looked like more than that myself. But the problem was, first of all, it's an extra expense. It wasn't part of the season ticket package for either team. Secondly, I've heard from people that the tickets were a little pricey. Thirdly, it's a noon game. For Louisville fans, that's a 2-hour drive. For people in Bloomington, it's an hour drive, and you're not going to get many students to pay extra money to ride up to Indianapolis to watch the football team play for a noon game. I mean, it should have been a later in the day game, and you give people more time to get up there. So it just wasn't executed well. It was a great venue, and it was a great game, but the atmosphere was lacking for sure, and it's probably part of the reason why the series is ending.
Yeah, Indiana buying their way out of that, costing them $1 million. Will that be beneficial to them in the long run? I'm not sure, because it was a hell of a game. It looked like it was going to be terrible. It looks like Jeff Brom was just going to run away with things, and then Indiana's defense shored things up, and the offense came to life. And it became a really fun game, and it got real fun for about 60 seconds. And then that balloon, the air out of that went out of that balloon real quick. It was like somebody stuck a needle in it.
I criticized it on Saturday, and I'll still criticize it. The problem with that play was it was so slow to develop, first of all. And secondly, we talked about here for 2 or 3 years about what the issue is with IU. The offensive line isn't great. So you're asking the offensive line to do something that odds are they're not going to be able to do, which is just power forward. Their running game isn't that good, and get 18 inches from a running back. Odds are that's not going to happen. If you're going to run that, I would have gone with Jackson sneaking it. Better chance for him just to, quick snap and go before the defense can react. That play was over before Henderson got the ball. It was over. They were in the backfield. And, otherwise, got to come up with some kind of a trick play there to get Indiana to get Louisville to suck in on the dive play and release a tight end and hit him or roll him out and run in or whatever. But it's just, as I said earlier before you got on the air, it's so many good things Indiana did. They did a lot of bad things, but in the end, it comes down a little bit to program DNA. Indiana always loses games like that, and Louisville has built its program up to the point where they win games like that. They already won
all the way back to the Fiesta Bowl against Alabama in whatever year that was. that was a shocker. Louisville was like the third alternate to get to go to that game,
right?
Because that's back when Arizona did not have a law. I think it was to do with Martin Luther King holiday, maybe. Correct. I think so. But they go into the game with Alabama and they win it 34-7. And so they come bursting onto the scene. Howard Schnellenberger breathed life into that program with that. I mean, that win, that set that. I think that set their sails afloat. I mean, not that they weren't going that direction, but man, you beat an Alabama on national TV, and I mean, beat them. Whoo, that did it. And then they have had their ups and downs, but they have been a program that has had success. Big difference.
It's part of mindset. Mindset is important. Mindset of players and mindset of fans. You teach fans to expect to win. Indiana fans are conditioned to think, okay, when's somebody going to pull the football away and Charlie Brown's going to whiff on the kick again? Because it happens over and over again, right? I mean, it happens over and over again, except for 2020 and 2019. But even that, they go to the bowl game against Tennessee and give up, a 10-point lead in the last 5 minutes. Or the Pinstripe Bowl against Duke, where the field goal actually was good, but it was ruled wide. I mean, I can give you a million examples. They play Michigan into double overtime, and they don't finish the deal. I mean, we can go on and on. The only Penix diving for the pylon is one of the few times it came out IU's way. And that's what they have to change. And I'll say this. They are better than I thought they would be this year. I mean, they've got some pieces. I mean, I think Jackson can be, for a guy with this year and 3 more years, he can be a good quarterback if they can build the offensive line. The offensive line is slightly better, but it's still not good enough. The receivers probably could be a little bit better.
Donovan McCulley is really turning out to be a hell of a receiver.
He's coming on. They need better backs. When Coleman was there and Jordan Howard was there, they need to find a guy like that somehow. Now, I know there aren't many of them, but they don't have a guy who has
the line. Also, is a big problem with that.
Yeah, but they don't have a guy with elite burst right now. But anyway, I mean, and defensively, they're solid. I mean, if they play to their best, they can hang in there. They showed it, obviously against Ohio State in the second half against Louisville, but there's going to be more of these games that are going to come down to like who can make the plays in the fourth quarter, whether it's going to be next week at Maryland or whether it's going to be, Rutgers at home or Michigan State at home or at Illinois or at Purdue. And they're going to have to win their share of them. They are. I mean, that's what it's come down to at this point. And they can't, when they get 4th and 18 inches, they got to make it. I mean, they do. They find out a way to make it.
Absolutely. Quarterback sneak all day long, twice on Sunday, man. Couldn't have stopped it.
Out of timeout.
He could have leaped up. He's 6'3". He has the length to just reach and score that. But I'm not a fan of defensive head coaches. I just always prefer a head coach to be more of a, and I know he should be both, but to come from a more of an offensive background and bring in a defensive dude. Tom Allen was a defensive dude. Is a defensive dude.
It seems like this Matt Guerreri guy they brought in on defense has been a young guy with a lot of. He's got a lot of adrenaline about him, and he seems to be resonating with
well.
Players. Yeah, he seems like
they're doing very well.
Yeah, but offensively, I mean, you can look at the whole season and say, when you look back on like what were they trying to do against Ohio State? That made no sense at all. In retrospect,
and how much would it have benefited had the decision on quarterback been made prior to game one, getting all the snaps? I'm not saying they win the Ohio State game, but maybe you make it a hell closer than it was.
Right.
Then you don't lose this game to Louisville. Now, this game was a tale of two halves. Indiana could not stop Louisville in the first half. Tom Allen alluded to the fact that there was a lot of holding going on, which he doesn't complain a ton So when he said something as the way he did, apparently stuck his hands out and said there was a lot of that going on, which there was a big difference in the second half. But how do you make a team stop holding?
I guess you keep complaining to the refs and hope that they start calling it. I don't know. I before you got back on, John and I were talking, I've been talking to a bunch of people about. It's hard for me to tell what isn't holding anymore in college football. It seems like every offensive lineman.
You can call it every play.
Yeah, it's like is it come by where they grab you? You're allowed to grab underneath the armpits, but not on top of the jersey. I mean. It seems like for every lineman, especially on pass blocking plays, the first move is to get 2 fists full of jersey. So I don't know. I need to talk to an official sometime and help me explain what's going on, because I agree with you. I mean, when they tackle a guy to the ground or bring him down to the ground one hand, we all know that's holding. Those are the more obvious ones. But the jersey grabbing, I don't know.
And I'm not suggesting a change is coming or should be coming, but can you imagine the Indiana fan base is such a conservative fan base. Can you imagine somebody like Deion Sanders at an Indiana?
I can imagine if it's sold and presented the right way and say,
and I mean by being just flamboyant.
Are you tired of winning one game against Ohio State for 40 years? Are you tired of winning one game against Michigan for 40 years? Going to try a different way to do it. So who's excited? Who's bought in? Who's down with this? I don't see it happening because there aren't that many Deion Sanders out there.
No. Hell, there's only one Deion Sanders. And that was a hell of a game. I know you didn't watch that because I watched it to the end and it got over at 2:30 a.m.
Right. No, I didn't stay up that late. I can't watch this week either because the Colorado-Oregon game is the same time as the Louisville-Boston College game.
Well, that's not good. I saw in your piece yesterday you did a 4-week reset of your expectations on the football season. For Indiana, that has not changed, I don't believe.
Right now, I still got them at 3-9,
which is going to be tough for a lot of fans to take that are holding on to that hope of bowl eligibility. I've said they have the talent to not only win 6 games, but to have won more than 6 games. And we keep kind of seeing that as it goes a little bit further, whether they come around or not. And it's not just the players. It's the coaches have to make the right calls at the right times. You can't make those mistakes. They've got to now go win a game, at least a game on the road that they're not supposed to win. And that's if you take care of business at home against teams like Wisconsin, even Rutgers, for that matter. Those are no longer. As a matter of fact, I went through ESPN's projection for the rest of the season on every IU game. They're not projected to win a single game the rest of the year on their current projection, and that projects out weeks and a half. Yeah, the rest of their season, yeah.
Akron, they're projected to beat Akron.
Oh, I'm sorry, post Akron, yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm not surprised. They play Maryland, which. I was kind of high on them early. They haven't really been that impressive this year, but it's a road game. Tough to project Indiana to win a road game in the Big Ten. Then they play Michigan. Where's that one? On the road again, right? Don't they have back-to-back road games?
Yes, Maryland and Michigan are both on the road.
And then it's a bye week, right? And then I think
yes,
they come back.
When Indiana's bye is.
Yeah, then they come back for the final 6, which is I don't know them in order. I know the last 3 are Purdue and Michigan State and Illinois. I think those are the 3 most winnable games, and 2 of those 3 are on the road.
They've got to go to Illinois, which is going to be tough. You've got to go to Purdue, which Purdue is not looking good.
No, they're not.
They're looking very beatable. Well, hell, they've been beaten at home already, although it was the first game of the year by a good team.
Syracuse beat them pretty soundly, right?
Yep. which that one surprised me. I thought that they would get it together by the third game after beating Virginia Tech on the road and come home and get a win, but they didn't. And so I'm like, wow. So that West is weird because you've got a lot of new coaches. Illinois not doing as well as I thought that they would start after that's the year they had last year. So is that now a winnable road game for Indiana? I don't know. Every road game is very, very tough, but it's one that could be. So they have the opportunity. They have the skill to do it. Whether or not they get it done, that's going to be another story.
But what you got to do, you got to win one you're not supposed to win. I mean,
absolutely.
Go and win one on the road that you're a 7 or 10 point underdog and win that. That's how you get people excited about football again, or beat Wisconsin at home. You'll get people talking about something like that. Beating Akron's not going to do anything for them. They have to do it. And I will say that's not a gimme. Akron played Kentucky tough for about 2.5 quarters.
How did their quarterback get out of that one play where they had him dead to rights, 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and the next thing you know, he's loose and throwing a freaking 30-yard pass?
Right. They got to win this game. Beat Maryland on the road next week. That'll get some people back. And you're saying win one that you're not supposed to win. And that's what they've done for a couple of years. I mean, really, the last 2 years, they haven't won any. I guess you could say Michigan State last year. They weren't supposed to win that one, but Michigan State was not a good team. So beat somebody you're not supposed to beat. I've said about this before. I mean, you look around, Purdue's beating Ohio State. Iowa beat Ohio State. What? Other people beat Penn State. They beat Michigan, upset them. Indiana never beats any of those teams ever. It's other than that one win against Penn State during the COVID season.
Had the shot, boy, in the COVID season against Ohio State. They, that was close.
I've seen Kentucky beat Alabama. I've seen Kentucky beat LSU. I've seen Kentucky beat Florida. I haven't seen them beat Georgia in a while, but I mean, you get what I'm talking. I've seen Louisville beat Florida State. You got to win one of those games. It can't always be mission impossible.
David says that it sounds like if they beat anybody, it's an upset, which he disagrees with. Well, Las Vegas says otherwise for the most part. But I'm not saying they're going to be an underdog in every game because Las Vegas will not be the same as ESPN. And these games things change week to week. We'll see. We've got to take a break. Basketball, recruiting, media day for IU today as well. The Hall of Famer Rick Bozich with us from WDRB.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Bring a cooler.
Where were you?
I could not
Saturday.
Make it.
Okay.
Had a last-minute change, but I will be there today.
Okay.
I was gonna say bring a cooler, or I'll just.
You want me to really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
What else is new?
Just recruiting, man. Everybody waiting and wanting a commitment from Liam McNeely, which I do believe is coming. I don't know when it would be coming. That's the question. It's going to be a good look if it does happen. That'll be 2 wins against Kansas. They're going to lose Boogie Flan to Kentucky. They'll lose Cooper Flagg to. I think so. I think, but hey, if he wins that one, that's that with those 2 combined, and then boy, who knows after that? What if Queen decides to come? But Kansas is not going to just be left out in the cold. I don't think. I would be hard. And I was reading, I forget who it was that put out North Carolina has picked up Kentucky's player development guy for their NIL, and how many pieces that Calipari has lost out of his inner circle in the last couple of years, and that it maybe starting to impact them. They won one NCAA game since 2019. But yeah, he can't just get Liam McNeely. They need a couple of big gets, I think. And but hey, if they can land Boogie Fland with that boy, then who knows where they go from there? Then maybe they land one of those Kansas, Duke, Kentucky classes. But I think Liam McNeely, with all the resources that they have been on him for so long, Kansas is a late comer.
Here we go, guys.
Just $299. That's right. Play as many rounds as you like for just $299. That's better than a birdie. But you don't have to be a student to play at Eagle Point. Go online to set your tee time or call 812-824-4040. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Wow Food Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Coming to you on this Wednesday. Jim Coyle with you as always. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, where you can get complete coverage of all kinds of everything, college athletics and more. Make sure you give Rick Bozich a follow. Thoughts and prayers out to Martinsville senior Brandon Kent. He arrived at the football stadium last Friday, straight from a funeral home, and then honored his baby sister by playing a game of his life. Kyle Neddenriep, who was just with us, has that story up. So check that out. It is recruiting time for the coaches, Rick. They're all out on the road. They are visiting every place they can get to. Indiana staff has been to Montverde. They've been to Overtime Elite. They've been to New York. Trent Sisley, just the names, Brandon Mullins. Just you can go on and on and on. It's just a scurrilous time right now. Sisley is coming on a visit this weekend as well. So just a ton going on all around Indiana right now. Really in on Liam McNeely, who I think will be their first 24 commitment when that comes. I don't know. I don't think that would be a lot longer. I would think he'd get it out of the way before his season starts. I don't know when that's going to be. Can't make that prediction. And then from there, what does that do to open up? I don't know. I know Calipari has done a great job with Boogie Fland and Mike Whitson. Both those guys were up in New York talking to him. So it's a battle, but Indiana is now in battles with Kansas and Duke and Kentucky. It seems like on virtually every recruit, which as long as you're winning some of those, that's where you want to be.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have some of those guys, and you got to have some guys who are more developmental guys who can come on and really give you, 2 or 3 good seasons. And for Indiana this year, I would put CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks in that category. Really good potential players who weren't good enough to play a lot as freshmen, but they should play more this year and then really be good by their junior and senior year. And then, fill in the gaps and the blanks out of the portal and grab some decommitments, which they've been great at doing 3 years in a row. And that's the way you have to do it. I'll be interested today to see what they have to say about, Mbako, how he has looked, what kind of role they envision for him, and also for Ware. Those are the 2 most important newcomers on the team by far.
Yeah, we'll be talking to those guys this afternoon. Make sure you can follow it on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll have all that for you there. Five Left says that McNeely has stated that he's going to make his decision in November. So win in November. which is right before his season starts, kind of what I thought. So we'll see when that happens. I don't expect anything to happen from anybody else before then.
We're talking about Queen or Fland or Givens or I don't even know.
Well, Fland's got his own deal, so I don't know what his schedule is. But when you get down to 2, I know that somebody is probably pushing. Well, I know that they're both pushing, but I'm not. I haven't been in that situation, so I don't know how hard each side is pushing for a commitment at that time, or just pushing for a commitment. It's I know it's a balancing act that you have to play. I just don't know exactly how much you push.
I don't know. You got to dance the line between making sure a player knows how much you want them, but not becoming a pest. I think you have to have a good read of the personality, the family, and the kid of how much attention, how much groveling they like, or at what point they get turned off by it and feel like they're getting bothered. For a lot of these kids, you hear them say afterwards that they shut off their phone near the end because they get tired of all the texts and the calls and stuff, and they just want to get it over with. I don't know. I've never been recruited like that, so I have no idea how I would respond. But it's such a weird business, and you don't know what comes into the decision for all different families. Is it playing time? Is it, proximity to home so your family and friends can see you play? Is it the coach's track record of getting guys to the NBA? There's all different things. Is it NIL opportunities? What is it that's the number one thing I know people have told me in the past as a coach. You have to identify 2 things. One, who are the people around the kid who actually have an influence on him as decision makers? Is it his AAU coach? Is it his mom? Is it his grandmother? And identify that person. And B, get to know the kid enough to know, like, what is it that excites him?
Speaking of Boogie Fland, and I know one recruit does not a season make, especially at, say, Kentucky, but with what I mentioned earlier about Kentucky only having won one tournament game since 2019, would Boogie Fland be a bigger win for Indiana or a bigger loss for John Calipari?
It'd be a bigger win for Indiana because Kentucky will find somebody else to play point guard. Calipari has been in situations before when he didn't get his man and then got somebody else. Ty Washington was one that he got decommitted from Creighton that came in there and played. We can go down the list through the years. He's got his guard classes already overflowing in this team with Wagner and Dillingham and Reed Shepherd. Reed Shepherd will be around again next year, so it'd be a bigger win for Indiana to get that kind of. I mean, it's been a while since who's the last big name out of state guard that Indiana really got? Is I guess Robert Johnson, sort of. He turned down Carolina in Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, do you have to go all the way back before that to Victor Oladipo?
I mean, Victor Oladipo wasn't ranked in the top 100, though. I mean,
he was a 3-star. No, he was a 3-star.
I'm talking about a big name out-of-state recruit. It would before that. Yeah. It might be all the way back to Bracy Wright and Marshall Strickland when Mike Davis.
Yeah, you've got. I guess that's true. I have to remember back the Archie era that he didn't land anybody from out of state. The last guy from New York I remember was is it Thomas Bryant?
Yeah. And
so that's been
he was more from Rochester than he wasn't from New York. Isn't this kid from New York City?
I believe so. But so as the recruiting starts to come around, we go IU Media Day today. A lot of new faces that we'll be seeing and talking to as Indiana looks forward to the season. The schedule came out yesterday. We've been talking about that, obviously. Indiana has a tough stretch, as tough a stretch as anybody can have from, November 19th, I think, when they play UConn, and then I'm assuming it's going to be Texas, which I do not mean to diss Louisville fans. I'm just going to assume Texas wins that game. Maybe they get upset. They'll have Harvard after that, but then Maryland, Michigan, Auburn, and Kansas. So you start that stretch with a defending national champion, and you end it with probably the number 1 ranked team in the country.
Yeah, I mean, you want to find out how good you are. You got to win your share. You got to slug it out and win a couple right in there. So that's a 6-game stretch. Well, there's Harvard's in there, so that's a 7-game stretch. Maryland at home, there are worse teams you could play in your home opener. I mean, that Maryland is a good team. I think Indiana, they lost to them last year, right? It was at Maryland.
Maryland could not be beat at home last year, man. Right. Of course, they couldn't win on the road.
At Michigan's not an awful assignment. Michigan's lost a lot of their good play. Dickinson's gone, and they had 2 guys go pro, one and done, Howard's son and the other guy. So that's a rebuilt team. I think Michigan's going to be picked in the bottom 3 or 4 in the Big Ten. So that's a game, if you're any good, you should be able to win. And then the next one is Kansas or Auburn?
Kansas is last. Auburn's right before
Auburn.
The Kansas game.
Auburn on a neutral court. That'll be a hard game. Auburn's good. They're very aggressive. They always have good guards. They guard the heck out of you, and it's closer to their fan base than Indiana's, but I think Indiana will have a good following there. And then Kansas at home, that's one of those games where you crank up all the noise and all the juice you can deliver and make it into a very intimidating environment.
And that should be a fun game. I mean, that is going to be Purdue-esque, I think. I mean, there's if it's not, you've got problems. There's no reason not to think that it won't be. We saw the challenge that Indiana had last year, but this is going to be a completely different team with a completely different makeup. And I can't predict what they're going to look like. I don't know what Mbako is going to be able to get done, and Khalil Ware and Peyton Sparks, and on all the new faces, how they're going to blend. Xavier coming back. That's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we can be sure of is that I think that Johnson and Galloway will be the starting backcourt at the beginning of the year, and they're veteran guys who played together some and should be able to contribute and lead the team. Then we don't know. Is Ware going to deliver on his potential? How quickly will Mbako, react? How can Renew get better from last year? We saw, that he was good at doing a few things, but too many turnovers and too many fouls. Have they cleaned that up? Is one of the younger guys in Gunn or Banks going to make a step forward? I think Sparks will be a really good player off the bench. He's played a lot of minutes in 2 years, and he's gotten himself in better shape, and he has a skill in terms of scoring around the basket that will become in handy. I think he's not going to be like a 10-point per game scorer, but I can see games against certain teams where it's a good matchup where he could be a 10.7 rebound guy.
Looking forward to that and much more. I'm sure you were about ready to head to Bloomington.
Yeah, I got to hop in the shower and get cleaned up and meet somebody downtown, and we'll be heading up. I want to give a pitch. John mentioned it earlier. We got Eric Crawford and I have a new show. You need to download an app called WDRB Plus, and it's called Overtime. And we sit in there twice a week, sort of PTI style, and run through a bunch of topics. We try and work IU in there at least once a week about what we think about what's going on at IU, but we talk about a lot of college sports people in this area would be interested in. So it's a streaming thing called Overtime on WDRB Plus.
And you would be remiss to miss out on it, because I promise you they are two of the most informed members out there, baby.
That's 3 o'clock today, right? 3 o'clock?
You bet.
Who have you heard are the best players to talk to? I heard Cups was a good interview. I know Galloway's good.
Gabe has been on the show, and he was great. Gabe Cups has been on the show with us. He's great. They're all
Xavier's good, right?
Yeah, Xavier's good. Plus he's a senior. Trey Galloway's good, of course.
CJ Gann, I've talked to him before. He's a very well-spoken kid.
Absolutely. Very, very well. So they're all good, actually. And it's going to be interesting talking to the guys I haven't spoken to.
And let's not forget, the women's team's also going to be there, and they're going to be ranked higher than the men's team to start the season. Their preseason, top 5 probably? Top 7? All they lost is Grace Berger, and they have 2 really good freshmen and a nice transfer. So I think Sydney Parrish is talking, and Sarah Scalia, along with Terry Morin. So this is the second year in a row they've done men's and women's basketball media day together, and I like it.
Me too, brother. Looking forward to seeing you as always.
All right. I'll see you.
Safe travels.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Rick Bozich joining us from WDRB.com. Make sure you look up their WDRB Plus overtime with him and Eric Crawford. I'm telling you, you'll be remiss if you miss out on that. So looking forward to getting over to Simon Scott Assembly Hall for today's IU Media Days. We'll bring that to you live on Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the YouTube portion of that. But if you can't be there live, it'll be there for you at any time. Simply go there and sign up. Or just subscribe. It's free, of course. Just hit the notifications toggle and the like button while you're at it. Man, we appreciate you. Five Lefts, you're a great dude. He's already got the overtime app downloaded. He beat me to it. Man, I can't thank everybody enough. As always, it has been a wonderful day. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and, of course, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And you guys, not for you, we have no reason to be here. Looking forward to talking to you a little later from Indiana Basketball Media Days. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.